Hello everyone, we hope you're having an awesome day wherever and whenever you're watching this. I'm your host Eamon Hassan and welcome back to another video here at Most Amazing Top 10. Honestly, I'm sure we've all had a teacher that we've been deathly afraid of and that just gave us anxiety. I remember when I was in year 7, I was still quite shy at this point and I hated asking my form teacher for anything whatsoever, so every time I had to, I literally the whole morning on the way to school, I'd just be like damn, just breathing exercises. And then when it was done, I was like, wow, that wasn't that bad at all. Mind you, I was like 11 or something, so just please. But anyway, Danny started this series and I know I can never do him justice, but I can definitely try to carry it forward. So here are the top 10 scary teacher stories part 2. Starting us off with number 10 is the stalker. Now this one was submitted by an anonymous person, but she said that while she was in high school, one of her teachers stalked her for an entire year. He was in his mid to late 60s and he'd somehow end up everywhere she was. At the fast food place where she worked, outside of her work, he would even follow her home as she drove. Anon saw him every single day for months on end and he wasn't even subtle about the fact he was stalking her. At this point, I don't know why the girl didn't report him or complain or tell the police or her parents, but everyone reacts differently in every situation. But if it was me, I'd have called 911 on his ass 1 week in. But anyway, one day the teacher spoke to the girl's little sister and that was the last straw. She called her dad and her dad came and actually threatened to kill the man if he ever came near either of the girls again. He never followed her again, but she kept his phone number, license plate number, name and description in case she ever went missing so they'd know where to look. Nice safety measures, I like it. Coming in at number 9 is the bus driver. I mean, your bus driver isn't really a teacher, but they still play a part in your school experience, so. And also shout out to all the bus kids. I'm pretty sure I took the bus to school every day from like year 2 or 3 till I graduated, so team bus kids. But anyway, Reddit user zombie, sassy username by the way, shared this story about 7 years ago. She said when she was 7, she had a bus driver called Mr. Mike who was somewhere in his 20s. He used to assign all the girls on the bus individual pet names like a snack treat name or a cereal name, and he would make them all sit at the front of the bus. And every day he would pick a princess and that girl would luckily get to sit on his lap while they drove to school. Mr. Mike got fired the next year and the user didn't realize how creepy it was until she was older. That is so messed up. How do these sorts of people get past a screening process for jobs like this? If children are involved, the hiring process has to be better than that. Come on people, this is disgusting. At number 8 we have the drunk. This one comes from user Jeff Edge, who said when he was in the 9th grade he had a teacher who showed up late and hungover nearly every single day. He was quite a mean teacher in general, but one day the user made a comment and the teacher flipped out and started screaming at him and told him to get out of the classroom. As the user was walking out, the user and the teacher kept having a back and forth, which infuriated the teacher even more, so much so he pushed another kid off his chair and threw it at him. Mind you, this kid must have been like 14 at best. The chair missed him and broke the window next to the door instead. But surprisingly, the teacher never got in trouble or fired for being constantly late, drunk or abusive, which is just problematic in and of itself. Filling our number 7 slot is the hugger. This one's from Cheetown Bears 15243, who said from pre-K up until 4th grade they had a male gym teacher who used to love getting touchy with the kids. One day the user was changing in the locker room and hit their head on the corner of the locker. Obviously the kid was upset and maybe crying, and then the teacher came into the room and started hugging the kid, and that would have been all well and good had the kid not been butt naked. At the time the user thought it was fine and thought he was just being nice, but he was fired within the same year after a bunch of other students went home and complained to their parents about him. And honestly, good riddance. You should not be hugging kids naked or otherwise. I feel like no. Now at number 6 is a superintendent. So a journalist went around and asked a bunch of adults about their worst teacher stories from the olden days, and this is one of the ones she was told. One person had a history teacher who was also their homeroom teacher and who later went on to become the superintendent. Now I was in a British school all my life and we don't have superintendents, so I actually don't even know what one does or what it is. But anyway, if you did something that he thought wasn't right, he made the students squat down, put their thumbs under their armpits, and walk from his desk across the hall to the lockers and back again as many times as he wanted you to. That would actually be really hard to do physically. Like, I don't even think I could do that once fully. Like, I couldn't lap that for sure. He also made them stand in a garbage pail outside his room and put books on top of the person's head at the same time. I mean, this is messed up, but kudos to the guy for coming up with original punishment ideas. Coming in at number 5 is climbing the rope. I feel like this is more of a thing that people do at American schools because I never had to do that during PE, and PE for us is what gym class is for you guys, just for clarification if you didn't know. Like, we didn't even have ropes installed, but I've seen it happen in every American high school show ever. So is this a thing everywhere? Please let me know in the comments, I need to know. But anyway, Reddit user Cheese Raven said that she had a PE teacher that had a habit of watching girls climb the rope. But the gym shorts they had to wear were super short, so it was quite easy for him to just look up their shorts. Unfortunately, climbing the rope was also part of your final in this class, so if you didn't do it because you knew he'd be looking at you, you'd fail the class. Either way, the teacher was never fired or anything, but he later got a divorce from his wife because she caught him with a student. Why are PE teachers so problematic always? When I was in primary school, mine was really racist and straight up hated me. My mom straight up went to the principal about it and it was quite traumatic really. I just never recovered. Nervous laughter, ha ha ha. At number 4 is the sub. I feel like substitute teachers are really hit or miss. You either have one that does not give a single damn about the class or what's going on, or you get one that actually tries to teach you something. So this story was from user Laurent, who said his German class had a pretty weak sub one day. The class got uncontrollably rowdy quite quickly, but the sub tried to persist onwards. She was trying to teach through the noise, talking quietly but trying and writing translations on the board. But 15 minutes later, she just couldn't take it anymore and full on lost it. Her writing became illegible, then it full on became scribbles, and then she threw the pen on the ground and walked out. 20 minutes later, a different teacher came in asking what the hell happened in the class because the sub was found under a desk crying and having an episode. Apparently she was an alcoholic. Either way, I feel like this is more of a student horror story than is a teacher one. I feel bad for her more than anything. Filling our number 3 slot is Mr. HIGHBERG. Now this one's from Reddit user Clumsy Ginger Ninja, who had a creepy old teacher called Mr. HIGHBERG. Okay, already this dude is problematic as hell, and let's begin. He had a map of the county they lived in down to street names and house numbers and everything, and he made all the students put a push pin on the map of where they lived. So this teacher knew the exact location of all these kids' houses, like that's totally normal. Second red flag was that he used to call the female students things like honey, sweetheart, and worst of all, baby. Last but certainly not least, but probably the worst, was the water molecule game. He used to make everyone pretend they were water molecules and they had to put their fingers into each other's belt loops, and if you didn't have a belt loop, you had to put your hand in the person's pockets. Which is weird, but okay, maybe he was trying to make science fun. But good old Mr. HIGHBERG decided to participate in the game and put his hand in a girl's back pocket. And hopefully that was the end of Mr. HIGHBERG. Now at number 2 is the Extremist. I really don't know what to make of this one, so I'm just not gonna say anything at all. This one's from user Belligerent Bear, who said they once had a teacher called Miss Greta who had a very sincere, genuine desire to help a terrorist. An Al-Qaeda operative had just escaped from a local prison, and the teacher was talking about it in class, saying how he was a great man and that she wanted to go and find him so she could help him hide and repay him for his good deeds. Okay, crazy. She then went on to say a giant flood is coming because of gay people and it would kill all gay people because they can't swim. I don't think that's entirely true there, buddy. But anyway, she also then said you deserve to die if you didn't speak the language of your native country. And there was one Korean kid in the user's class that didn't speak any Korean, and she looked at him dead in the face and quote unquote said, "I should shoot you dead." I feel like after all that, Miss Greta probably helped this dude escape from prison. She just sounds like a psychopath. And finally, at number 1 is the licker. No, before you assume the worst, there is no teacher who licked a student in this story. expel that thought from your mind, you fiends. But anyway, this person said their teacher was weird as hell, and from the title I fully agree. She used to clean the blackboard with her hand and then lick the chalk off of it. She also used to scratch her back a lot and have skin stuck under her fingernails, which, side note, I don't know how the user knew that. I mean, how close up do you have to be to even be able to see that? But anyway, one morning during a test, the student saw the teacher put her hand into her blouse, wipe it down her chest, across the stomach, her sides, and then her armpits, and then take her hand out again. She then looked around to see if anyone was looking, and then smelled her hand, and then licked it from the palm to the fingers, and then sucked her fingertips. I'm just gagging at the thought of that. That's actually disgusting. The user added the teacher used to borrow their pencils all the time without asking and would chew and lick them too, so they ended up buying 2 pencil cases, one for the ones the teacher had touched and one that was for the untouched stationery. That's quite a smart move, I have to give you that. And that's it for today's video, guys. I read so many stories for this video and only 10 made the list obviously, but I was stunned at how many stories involved creepy male teachers ogling girls or touching them, or just involving inappropriate sexual behavior. Like, it should not be as common as it was in all the stories I read. But anyway, let me know which story horrified you the most, and also tell me if you have any scary teacher stories. As always, I'm Eamon Hassan, and I'll see you next time. Bye!